It's the segment. It made this man a legend. We call it Answer the Question. So, Neat, the Steelers waiting for Aaron Rodgers is...
It's desperate. Like I think it's desperate on both sides. It doesn't really feel like Aaron Rodgers really wants to go to the Steelers, and clearly the Steelers don't have an answer at the most important position, and they haven't for a long time. So they're desperately waiting for a quarterback who is a future Hall of Famer, one of the greatest of all time, but is also, most recently, a quarterback that the Jets didn't want. So it's a pretty desperate situation.
Which position do you think Travis Hunter should prioritize?
I got to put my own personal cornerback bias aside and say that the answer is receiver. I think the way that the league has gone, an impactful receiver is more important. Or, excuse me, a great receiver can be more impactful to a team than a great cornerback.
Catching that football than trying to defend it sometimes. All right, which team should draft Shedeur Sanders?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to do a Steelers double dip on this answer to the question, because I think the answer is the Steelers. Assuming they get Aaron Rodgers, he's obviously not the long-term answer. And a quarterback in the 20s, then I think that it would be great for them to pick him up and allow him to sit behind Aaron Rodgers and prepare for the future and hopefully build up the talent around him on that offense, particularly the running game and offensive line, for him to take over in the next couple of seasons.
Oh, let's live in that area here for a minute, only for the simple fact Shedeur's visiting the Steelers today. So is this a good fit, in your opinion, Kath?
It is. And I interviewed Shedeur a couple weeks ago, and he said that he'd rather have a better fit than go first overall, which is not something you hear a lot from prospects. But I think when you're a quarterback, geography is destiny. You get in a bad situation, your career is over by year 3 in some of these situations. I understand it. I think Pittsburgh would have a really good infrastructure. I would lean more towards Vegas. I think Chip Kelly is offensive coordinator. Tom Brady there, who has a great relationship with Shedeur. Michael Vick, by the way, Shedeur told me, is his quarterback mentor. Obviously, he played under Chip Kelly. That, to me, would be a better fit, but I think Pittsburgh would be a great home for him. And I also think Pittsburgh, giving him a Rodgers kind of mentor for a year. I know mentor might be a strong word for Rodgers in particular, but getting him the system, giving him a year to learn, I think that could be important.
What do you think, D-Will?
Yeah, listen, I always say with these organizations, more organizations find ways to kill these young men's careers than to help them. And when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously you're talking about one of those premium franchises because they have a lot of great ownership. The head coach is he's going to be a Hall of Fame head coach. So the infrastructure in Pittsburgh would serve him well. Got 2 weapons on the outside. Obviously, the quarterback situation as far as Aaron Rodgers is in flux, but I think the key is Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin will give Shedeur Sanders that foundation that he would need entering to the National Football League.
Expound on that just for a minute there, Nick.
Yeah, I have a hard time. I appreciated Kevin introducing the Raiders, but I have a hard time imagining Pete Carroll drafting a quarterback for the future, a team that hasn't had success in a long time. And actually, their roster isn't bad. They obviously went to go get Geno Smith in order to make a run this year. And I think that I'd be surprised if they use their first-round draft pick on a player that's not going to be able to help them this year, because I'm pretty sure, I know they can get out of the Geno contract pretty soon, but I'm not sure that works out, because I think their rebuild might take a little longer.
So the Saints are at 9. You've got the Steelers coming in at 21. Raiders are around 6, I believe, in the draft. Generally, when we think of Shedeur, we've talked about the first 3 picks, probably. But I thought it was interesting. Louis Riddick had this to say about Shedeur sliding out of the top 3. Take a listen to this.
This young man is going to be just fine. And you know what? I hope he doesn't go in the top 3 picks. I hope he doesn't. And I think his camp would tell you the same thing. There are other teams that they want to go to.
What do you think about that?
No,
would it be a good thing if he actually slid for his career?
Absolutely, because where other stable franchises tend to be on the bottom half of the first round. I mean, we can look at a couple examples in recent history. Patrick Mahomes, you saw the Kansas City Chiefs trade up to go get Patrick Mahomes. Lamar Jackson, you saw the Baltimore Ravens trade up into the first round to get a Lamar Jackson. So listen, if I'm Shedeur Sanders, man, it's you've been like that. You know, just by following your dad and seeing how his career played and just being around the game, it's more important to get to the right situation. Yeah. That'll help your career long term than being, having this high draft pick attached to you.
You know, it's interesting, Neek, because for a long time, all we heard about Shedeur was that he's going to go in the top 3. Now, all of a sudden, you hear all this talk about, well, maybe he's too cocky. Maybe that's the reason why he's slide. If there is a slide, in your opinion, why would there be a slide with Shedeur Sanders?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the cockiness or the confidence that's scaring off. I would assume that's scaring off NFL teams, because that would be really unusual, because most guys are pretty cocky and confident that are coming into the league. I think harder to get excited about, and it's harder to sell. It doesn't mean that he's going to be any more or less successful, but it means drafting this position. So it doesn't mean that he can't have success, but it does mean that general managers and teams are going to be much more reluctant to take a risk on a guy that they don't see as a guy with the ability to compete with the very, very best quarterbacks in the league, because he doesn't have the physical traits to do so.
You talked about that. You interviewed him at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
What do you see when you talk about that?
Well, a couple things. You talk about traits. He was the second most accurate player in all of college football last year. So he's got accuracy. We know what his floor is. I've been disappointed in some of the reporting around maybe why his slide is happening. I don't think it's the confidence. Every quarterback is confident. Have you met a quarterback GM? Have you met a quarterback scout? No. They're all confident. To me, I think there's a part of him that has a DB's mentality. He said that in our interview. He has Deion Sanders' mentality. I think teams are uncomfortable with that. I think this is teams being scared of their own shadow. Do your job. That's what the money's for. Scout him like a normal quarterback.
We'll talk about this too more in the show. But come.
Hai luôn nữa. Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Ngày hôm nay mình sẽ tiếp tục hướng dẫn các bạn tô tượng. Tượng hôm nay của mình sẽ có tiêu đề là khẩu súng. Các bạn, hôm nay tượng của mình sẽ có tiêu đề là bom nổ. Bây giờ mình sẽ bắt đầu tô nhé. Đầu tiên là mình tô màu đỏ nhé. Mọi người đây màu đỏ này. Đây là mắt màu xanh nhá.